Even with all the spectacle and celebration that surrounded the Steelers' trip to Ireland, from the scenery to the support from the Irish fans, the real story, the one that actually matters on the football field, was what we saw in terms of unexpected growth. Not from the stars, not from the usual suspects, but from the guys who'd been on the fringe, the ones who had struggled. Suddenly, players who were question marks turned into exclamation points. And for a team that's been searching for identity early in the season, that might be the most valuable takeaway of all. Now listen, when a bye week hits, especially this early in the year, you'd usually expect things to feel a little stagnant. For straight days off while your division rivals are grinding it out on the field, not ideal. But in this case, it feels like a turning point. Because what we saw overseas wasn't just a win, it was a shift. And I can't shake the feeling that we might be looking back at Dublin as the moment some of these guys flipped the switch. Let's start with Keanu Benton. Because, man, this guy went from invisible to impactful overnight. Through the first 3 games, barely made a dent. There were questions about whether he should even be out there. But then comes this performance where he's suddenly blowing up plays, getting in the backfield, making his presence felt. That's not just improvement. That's a leap. That's found treasure on the roster. The kind of mid-season transformation that coaching staffs dream about. And speaking of stepping up out of nowhere, Kenny Gainwell. Talk about next man up. He wasn't even supposed to be the guy that day. He steps in late to replace Jaylen Warren, and then just explodes. Vision, quickness, patience, everything clicked. It's like the switch flipped, and suddenly he's looking like a legit weapon. That kind of depth, that's how you survive the grind of 17-game season. That's how you stay dangerous in December. But no one flipped the narrative harder than PTO Wilson. I mean, this guy was basically being written off. There were whispers, some public comments from the coaching staff that didn't exactly sound encouraging. It really seemed like he was about to lose his job. Then the game happens, and guess who leads the team in tackles? Not just showing up, taking over. That's a statement. That's someone hearing the noise and deciding to shut it down the best way possible on the field. So here's what I want to do. This isn't a prediction segment. I'm not here playing Nostradamus. But I've got a few more areas that feel ripe for the same kind of bounce back. Areas where, just like Benton or Gainwell or Wilson, the script could flip and turn a weakness into a strength. Think of it as a wish list. And yeah, maybe a little bit of a challenge to the guys on this roster. Let's talk tight ends, because they've been quiet. Maybe too quiet. Pat Freiermuth. Look, we all know he's capable of more. We've seen it. At one point, people were talking about him like he could be one of the top tight ends in the league. But through 4 games, he's got 7 catches. That's it. Only 10 targets. It's not just that the numbers are low. It's that they feel disconnected. There's clearly been miscommunication. The chemistry between him and Rodgers just isn't there yet. But that doesn't mean it won't get there. The potential hasn't disappeared. The opportunity just needs to align with the execution. And Jonas Smith? Same story. 16 targets, 14 catches. Not terrible, but not nearly enough considering what he brings to the table. Especially after his breakout season in Miami in 2024. He was a monster after the catch, and he's already got 76 yards of YAC this season. That's not nothing, but it's not close to his ceiling. These are tight ends that can stretch the field. They can block. They can bail out a quarterback. Right now, they're being underused. Fix that, and suddenly your offense gets a whole lot more dangerous. Now, maybe part of that is on Arthur Smith. Maybe the scheme has been too conservative, too reactive. There have been plays where extra linemen are being used just to cover up protection issues. That's understandable when you're trying to protect your quarterback, but it can't come at the cost of making your weapons invisible. There's been some buzz this week that they're working on it, that they're trying to figure out how to free these guys up. Good. That needs to happen. Because if you can unlock Freiermuth and Jonas Smith, if you can actually get the tight end room humming, you're talking about a whole new dimension to this offense. One that can control the middle of the field, convert third downs, and keep defenses honest. All right, let's pivot to the defense now. Specifically, the pass coverage. Remember back in training camp? All that hype? All those dreams of building a shutdown secondary with guys like Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr.? It was supposed to be a strength. One of the best coverage units in the league. Well, that has not been the case. Ramsey? He's made some splash plays, sure. But even before the hamstring injury, he wasn't consistently locking guys down. Slay? Been fine. Porter? Still coming into his own, and he's been banged up too. But collectively, the pass defense has been one of the worst in the entire NFL. Through 4 games, the Steelers have allowed an average of over 260 passing yards per game. That's bottom 4 in the league. Not where you want to be. Now, with Ramsey out, maybe they simplify things. Maybe they stop trying to get cute with matchups and just run a cleaner, more traditional coverage scheme. That could help. Getting Porter healthy should help too. And maybe, just maybe, this unit needs a bit of a wake-up call. Because the talent is still there. The film from Latrobe didn't lie. They can be better. But right now, they're not. And if they want to be taken seriously come playoff time, that has to change. And finally, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I know, that name still stirs strong opinions. But this isn't about legacy. This is about right now. And what we've seen so far this season is a little puzzling. Rodgers has been playing like he's allergic to the deep ball. Everything is short. Everything is quick. The ball's coming out almost the second it's snapped. It's almost surgical, like he's trying to run a 2-minute drill all game long. And look, part of that is strategy. The offensive line has been shaky. Smith has clearly designed the game plans to get the ball out fast and keep Rodgers clean. Mission accomplished. But at what cost? Because this offense doesn't feel dangerous right now. It feels safe. Too safe. Like it's missing the edge, the explosiveness that a quarterback like Rodgers should bring. And we know he's still got it. We saw it all summer at Latrobe. The arm strength, the off-platform throws, the timing, it's still there. He just hasn't been given the opportunity to show it off. Yet. And that's where the hope comes in. Because this isn't a question of ability. It's about opportunity. It's about evolving past survival mode and into attack mode. The quick game stuff is great when you're trying to cover up flaws. But eventually, you got to trust the offensive line. You got to open things up, mix in some play action, take some shots, use the middle of the field. Let those tight ends cook. Because when that happens, not if, but when, that's when you're going to see the real version of this offense. The version that can put fear into a defense. The version that can win in January. And let's be real, when that version of the offense finally shows up, it's not just going to change how the Steelers operate. It's going to change how teams prepare for them. Right now, defenses don't fear the deep ball. They're sitting on short routes, pressing the receivers, crowding the box. They know what's coming. And until Pittsburgh stretches the field vertically, that's not going to change. But once Rodgers starts cutting it loose again, the whole picture shifts. Safeties back off, linebackers freeze on play action. Tight ends get more space underneath. That's when it all opens up. And you could see it brewing already during the Ireland game. Even though most of the plays were designed for quick release, there were moments, small windows, where Rodgers showed flashes of that old magic. That little sidearm flick that somehow lands perfectly in stride. The way he manipulates the defense with his eyes, gets defenders leaning just long enough to open up a lane. That stuff doesn't age. And when you pair it with a healthy run game and even average offensive line play, it becomes deadly. That's why the Ireland performance, even if it was built on safe concepts, actually felt like a preview of what's coming. A foundation. You lock in the rhythm now, and then when the time's right, you let the leash off. Speaking of letting go, this coaching staff might need to start trusting more of its depth. The Gainwell situation proved that. He wasn't the first option, but when his number was called, he delivered. There's something to be said for guys like that. Hungry players. Roster spots are tight, opportunities are limited, and the guys who stay ready end up being the ones who change games. That energy, that internal competition, it's healthy. It pushes the veterans too. And maybe that's what we're seeing with someone like PTO and Wilson, a player who heard the noise, felt the pressure, and instead of folding, fought back. Coaches can't teach that. That's internal. That's character. But the question now is how many more of those stories are sitting under the surface? How many other guys are one opportunity away from becoming real contributors? Maybe it's a young receiver who hasn't cracked the rotation yet. Maybe it's a backup corner waiting to capitalize on an injury. Maybe it's another unsung name in the trenches. If the Steelers are serious about being a contender, not just sneaking into the postseason, but actually making noise, they're going to need more of those players to rise up. Because you don't survive a full NFL season on star power alone. Depth wins in this league. And that brings us back to the tight ends. Because as much as Freiermuth and Jonas Smith have been underwhelming so far, there's also Darnell Washington lurking in the background. Now, we already know what he brings as a blocker. He's a tank. A walking mismatch in short yardage, a bully on the edge. But what started to become more clear is that he might be a real weapon in the passing game too, if given the chance. The coaching staff has kept him involved. They haven't pushed him aside, even after Jono was brought in. That says something. It says they see value that goes beyond just sealing the edge. Rodgers has mentioned him. The offensive playbook still includes packages where he's the primary read. And that tells you there's an effort, maybe even a priority, on getting the most out of him. And why not? He's still on a rookie deal, still developing, and already contributing in ways that don't show up on the stat sheet. But here's the thing. If you believe in him, really believe in him, then at some point you've got to open the door for him to do more than just block. Give him red zone targets. Let him stretch the seam. Use him on delayed releases. Because once he proves he can be a dual threat, the offense gets another layer, and the defense gets another headache. And if you're thinking long-term, like roster construction, salary cap, who stays and who goes, then Washington becomes even more important. The tight end room is deep now, but it won't stay that way forever. Contract come up. Tough decisions will have to be made. And if Darnell keeps progressing the way he is, he might end up being the centerpiece. He's already shown the kind of physicality you dream of at that position. And if he starts catching passes regularly, look out. Now let's not get too far ahead of ourselves, because this season still has 13 games left, and the Steelers' identity is still forming. But moments like the Ireland game are where you start to see the shape of something real. The signs of growth. Not just in the guys who are already great, but in the guys who are grinding for their spot. And that's what makes this team so intriguing right now. They're flawed. They got issues. But they're showing signs of life in the right places. The defense has had its lapses, no doubt. The secondary has been shaky. But the fix isn't about some massive personnel overhaul. It's about sharpening the communication, simplifying when necessary, and letting guys like Joey Porter get healthy and take ownership. Because the ability is there. And with Ramsey out, the urgency is going to kick in. You can't afford to give up over 260 passing yards per game and expect to win consistently in this league. The numbers are bad, but they're not locked in stone. That can change. And based on the talent in that room, it probably will. Same goes for the offense. Everyone's talking about Rodgers and the short game and the lack of fireworks. But that can flip quickly. All it takes is a few trust throws down the sideline, a couple of deep completions that remind defenses who they're dealing with. And once that door opens, you better believe Rodgers is going to walk through it. Because he's still that guy. He's still got the fire. You can see it in how he talks, how he prepares. He's not out there just to ride off into the sunset. He wants a win. And if the play calling evolves just a little, if the offensive line holds up just enough, it's going to happen. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. It seems the NFL rumor mill has finally settled, and the latest buzz is sending shockwaves through Pittsburgh. Stefon Diggs, one of the league's most dynamic receivers, is reportedly closing in on a deal with the Steelers. For weeks, whispers have circulated about Diggs' next destination, with fans and analysts alike speculating about which team could fully leverage his elite speed, route-running precision, and uncanny ability to make defenders miss. Now, according to sources close to the situation, the long-awaited answer is emerging. Pittsburgh, a franchise hungry for a game-changing presence in the passing game. The Steelers, historically known for their rugged defense and play-action prowess, could finally be adding a layer of lethal aerial firepower that has been conspicuously absent. Diggs' arrival would provide quarterback Kenny Pickett with a go-to target capable of stretching the field, forcing opposing secondaries to cover every inch of the gridiron. Rumor has it that the chemistry between Diggs and Pickett in practice sessions has been electric, with the young quarterback reportedly thrilled about the prospect of working alongside a receiver of Diggs' caliber. Observers suggest this pairing could transform Pittsburgh into a more balanced offensive juggernaut, keeping defenses honest and opening up opportunities for the run game in ways we haven't seen in recent seasons. While nothing has been officially announced, sources indicate that contract negotiations are progressing swiftly, and insiders are bracing for a confirmation that could redefine the Steelers' offensive identity. Social media is already ablaze with fans imagining Diggs lining up in the black and gold, speculating on highlight reel touchdowns, and debating how his presence could shift the balance in the AFC. Critics are quick to point out the challenges. Integrating a star receiver into an existing system is never seamless, and questions linger about salary cap impact and depth chart adjustments. Yet, the overarching sentiment seems to be one of excitement and anticipation. If Diggs does indeed land in Pittsburgh, the Steelers may have just added a game-breaking dimension that could keep them in contention well into the playoffs. The saga is far from over, but one thing feels increasingly clear. The NFL world is watching, and Pittsburgh could be on the verge of a passing renaissance led by one of the league's most electrifying talents. For fans craving speed, precision, and highlight-worthy catches, the prospect of Stefon Diggs in black and gold is more than a rumor. It's a tantalizing possibility that has everyone talking. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.